some of the finest voices on this region join me on this broadcast. I want to quickly introduce our guest. Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, keeps a hawk eye on developments in Pakistan and Afghanistan, joins us on the show. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is former Kashmir Corps commander, was also military secretary, joins us on the show. Taha Siddiqui is a journalist from Pakistan, had to flee overseas, lives in Paris, keeps a very close eye on what's happening in his home country, joins us on the show. Professor Andrew Latham is a distinguished scholar of international security and strategic studies, joins us from the Macalester College, Minnesota in the United States of America. But Taha, let me come to you first and ask you, what's the current situation in Muridke? Police claim 10 dead. TLP says the number is much higher. It could be in 3 digits, injuries in 4 digits in police brutality. What's the information you've been able to pick up?
From what we understand right now, the situation is still very tense. One of the police, station house officers has been killed by the protesters. At the same time, we are getting reports that from the TLP protesters that several of their people have been killed, several of them have been injured. The in charge of TLP, the head of TLP has apparently been arrested. The police right now and the government are claiming that they are currently doing a clearance operation, but the information coming out of here, there's a lot of blackout. The media is not being allowed access. Most of these visuals that we are seeing are coming through social media. The internet has also been controlled. So right now it's very chaotic. It's not very clear what's going on, but it's very worrying what's been happening. And this is not just today. It's been happening since Friday. So it's been Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now Monday. So it's been going on for 3-4 days, and it's
Yes.
not the first time Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, which is known to be a blasphemy brigade group, which sort of like protests over blasphemy, protection of blasphemy laws, and was initially, in 2017 and 18, we know that was backed by the Pakistani military establishment and has been on and off used by the Pakistani military establishment to pressure civilian political leadership in the country, is once again on the roads and is once again, creating this sort of chaos. And right this time around, in Lahore, in central Punjab, so it also might indicate that perhaps things between civilians and the military might not be on the same page, and there is some kind of a rift, and that rift is showing in this manner on the roads.
Okay, stay with these. Sushant Sareen, could this be the excuse that Asim Munir wants not to follow through? Because now Pakistan's realized there are no free lunches. He's already had the lunch at White House and promised to recognize Israel. The consequences very heavy for Pakistan, going against the thinking of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Reports in Pakistan seem to indicate police refused to attack religious protesters of TLP. Rangers had to be called in. What are you picking up, Sushant Sareen? How bad is the situation?
Gaurav, the situation is very bad. Look, if this is indeed some kind of a part of that shenanigans of the Pakistan military to once again unleash the TLP and then slink out of certain assurances they've given to the United States or some of the countries in the Arab world, I would be less worried for Pakistan. The problem, however, can be, and as we have seen in the case of the TTP and sundry other good Taliban who have turned bad, is that it doesn't take very long for the Pakistan military to actually lose control over its previous clients. We've seen that with the TTP. They used the TTP for the longest. We've seen that with the good Taliban, the guys who are carrying out some of the most spectacular attacks in KP, which is the Ittihadul Mujahideen Pakistan of Hafiz Gul Bahadur. He was the good Taliban at one point of time. We've seen it in POK, for example, where people are rising up in revolt. They've lost control of the political narrative out there. The mainstream political parties have become irrelevant. And if that is the case, then Pakistan is literally staring at these million mutinies that seem to be breaking out all the time. Now, that is one part of the story. The other part of the story is that, look, it's not exactly that the TLP guys are, these nice, very democratic protesters. They are horrific people, but remember, they represent the underclass of Punjab. These are people who are from the lower middle classes, and they find a certain degree of empowerment in being able to protest and beat up the police, which is normally oppressing them. And if the cops have refused to fire on these guys, there's a reason for it. Because in the past instances, every time the cops have actually taken action against the TLP fellows, the cops have been let out to hang to dry. They've been left out in the cold. They've not been given any relief. They've been beaten up, and the TLP guys have been allowed to go scot free. So if the
But
cops
this
are
time the
reluctant,
situation appears to be far more serious, Sushant Sareen. There are some reports that seem to indicate that even Saad Rizvi or his brother was shot at, and there are multiple bodies lying on the road, as we can even see in some of these images. General Hasnain, Pakistan's Punjab province, the heart of Punjab, you see these fires being being lit up. Afghan forces claim that they've killed 58 Pakistan Army soldiers. They've overrun 27 Pakistani posts, from Spin Poldak in the south to Khurram and Torkham in the north. The Durand line has once again been called hypothetical in writing. So is this Pakistan-Afghanistan conflict far more serious than the regular skirmishes that take place, sir?
Thank you, Gaurav. Firstly, I'm on a slightly weak line, so I will say my piece as quickly as possible. Yes, you are 100% right. I'd like to remind our viewers that way back 2014 to 2018, Pakistan did fight an operation called Zarb-e-Azb. If you remember, 1/3 of the Pakistan army was involved in those operations. Now, this seems to have to become even worse than the situation of 2014 to 2018, because that was the time when Punjab was not so severely affected. Secondly, the American presence was there very much in Kabul, and therefore the border, the Afghan-Pakistan border, was very, very stable. Two elements which have been added to it in terms of instability are going to get the better of the Pakistan leadership, the Pakistan army. This is Asim Munir's first major experience in handling such a turbulent situation. So far, it has been hunky-dory for him, in terms of free lunches in Washington, etc. But now he's going to face the music of all that, because in Pakistan public in general, the number of radicals that they have created are not very happy with the kind of relationship they have established with the United States of America. And the effects of that are being told on the ground today. This is going to go on for fairly long.
Very interesting. I want to play out two images for the benefit of our viewers. One, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is in Sharm el-Sheikh. He, along with 20 other world leaders and the President of the United States, they are hailing the peace process. But in Pakistan, the country is imploding. So, Professor Andrew Latham, people in Pakistan are opposed to Pakistan being on board Donald Trump's 20-point agenda, the Abraham Accord, and the recognition of Israel with Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. How do you see these latest developments? Will Pakistan try to slink out, trying to tell America, look at the lives that are being lost in Pakistan's Punjab province? The situation is grim. Pakistan cannot follow suit. Will Donald Trump permit this, or no free lunches? Pakistan will have to walk the talk now.
I think in Donald Trump's mind, what he would like in South Asia is both India and Pakistan and other countries, but those two in particular, on Team USA. He would like Pakistan because he wants them off of Team China, and perhaps as a hedge against Iran and Afghanistan, and India for obvious reasons in the Indo-Pacific. The problem is, that's very difficult to square that circle. That India and Pakistan, as your viewers know, and as my co-panelists know, have a history which impedes the development of that particular scenario. And now it's become even more complicated, because even if if Pakistan doesn't fall apart tomorrow, and I don't think it will, the stresses and strains of being on Team America are intolerable to the government. Grassroots Islamists and people who are otherwise opposed to what the Pakistani state is doing in Sharm el-Sheikh, for example, recognizing Israel, etc., are going to put a lot of pressure on that government. And that government is going to react by trying to move a little bit farther away from Washington. And that's going to look very suspicious in the eyes of Donald Trump. He wants something that he can't possibly have, and it's going to get even more difficult to get.
Because the situation on ground, Sushant Sareen, when you look at these two contrasting images, Shahbaz Sharif in Sharm el-Sheikh will be shaking hands and saying, wow, Trump's peace agenda is working, and the streets of Lahore burning. Could this fire expand across Pakistan? And is that why the Pakistan army gradually distancing itself? You know, they'll hang out Shahbaz Sharif to dry. Asim Munir will live to fight another day.
So, Gaurav, one, the sight of Shahbaz Sharif in Sharm el-Sheikh, I don't think it should come as any surprise. There have been any number of unpopular, unelectable leaders like Shahbaz Sharif, puppets of, the deep states and the establishments of their countries, going around on the international stage and pretending that they are actually leaders of their countries. Shahbaz Sharif arguably lost his own election, but he's the prime minister in a tainted
Form
election.
47 prime minister,
But
yes.
look, there is another very important development that has taken place. I don't know if you followed it. The Taliban, for example, have issued a statement on the Tehreek-e-Labbaik protests. And what the Taliban and the Tehreek-e-Labbaik are literally daggers drawn, because one are the so-called Sufis. In fact, we've distorted the name of Sufis by calling these Barelvi Sufis. But these TLP guys are the Barelvis, and the
they're the
Taliban are
Deobandis.
Deobandi. And yet, if they are making common cause, could this then become some kind of a situation in which the Islamists of all hues get together against what they perceive or what they call as an un-Islamic dispensation that is ruling Pakistan in the name of Islam, which is essentially the Pakistan army? And which is killing Pakistani citizens, which is killing fellow Muslims, and carrying out the most brutal action against civilians. In a country where there's no democracy, in a country where people's rights are being snatched away, the media has been strangulated to a point that you will scarcely see anything appear on mainstream Pakistani media on what the hell is happening on the ground. Much of the information, Gaurav, I suspect that you are getting is not from the mainstream media, which you could have gotten maybe 5-6 years back. You're getting it from social media handles. The democratization of the media and people posting on Twitter or on Facebook and other platforms is how the information is coming out. And it tells you and gives you a very stark image of what's happening in Pakistan. But having said that, just one more point. I don't think this is as yet a break between the civilian government and the military, which is actually on its back. In fact, I would suspect that Maryam Nawaz Sharif has gone the extra mile to show that she's more of a man than anybody else, and ordered the police to crack down really hard, hoping that this would endear her to the army and buttress her credentials to replace her uncle as and when the time comes. So there would be a certain amount of internal politics as well. But remember, TLP is deadly opposed to a woman leader in Pakistan, and they call it an un-Islamic thing. So you
how
have a lot.
strong is the TLP right now, Taha, given the fact that, their leader may have been shot at, the brother of the leader, according to reports coming from Pakistan, may be shot dead. TLP supporters say the death toll is in hundreds. Pakistan army of government officially says it's just 10 dead, including the SHO. It's a case of Muslim killing Muslim, Sunni Muslim killing Sunni Muslim. There are some reports that say that the IG police who ordered the opening fire on these people, it was a Shia Muslim. Does it become who's more Muslim than the other? Is it become going in that direction?
Well, the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan is a very, very powerful group, and it's becoming more and more powerful. And I was talking to some Pakistani journalists, and they said that, we should be very worried about this group, and we don't really globally understand how deadly this group is, but its effects are very global. And this cause for blasphemy, this cause for global Islam, is not just limited to Pakistan in terms of TLP. If you remember, a couple of years ago, there was an attack here in Paris, where I am based,
Yes.
outside the Charlie Hebdo office, and the Pakistani child who was involved at 25, he was a young 20-year-old who was involved in this attack. He was a TLP supporter. He had videos from the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan being radicalized by them for this cause of blasphemy. Now, the thing is that, the problem is that TLP has, a lot of vote bank in Punjab, which is where most of the Pakistani politicians depend on for their vote bank. And so we've seen that in the past, that there was a crackdown against TLP, even in like 2021, in 2019, 2017. There's several crackdowns, and yet once it was even considered as a terrorist organization, it was labeled as a terrorist
Yes.
organization, and only after a few days that was reversed, because the TLP has a lot of street power. And now, where does that street
Excuse me.
power come from? The street power comes from, and has been, historically, we've seen that these militant Islamist groups, these extremist groups, they get their street power from, a nod from the Pakistani military establishment that uses them from time and again for its own strategic, political,
Consider the Pakistan
narratives
army
at
to be
home.
Muslim enough, especially when they're accepting Israel and going against, that so their philosophy of Jerusalem should be a part of Palestine and not Israel. But General Hasnain, in your appreciation, given what's happening in Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Baluchistan, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, then the water trouble between Punjab and Sindh, is Pakistan army overstretched or stretched to the limit at a time when tensions with India remain high and Operation Sindoor remains, active?
Gaurav, two responses to your very, very correct question, I would say. The first, yes, with the Afghanistan front active, two of Pakistan's strike corps, the Mountain Strike Corps in Peshawar and the other Desert Strike Corps in Quetta, both start getting committed towards the Afghanistan front, because the frontier constabulary by itself is not considered sufficient to be able to control and look after the Durand line. That's number one. Number two, a large number of formations start getting involved in the internal security duties inside Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and I'm sure Gilgit-Baltistan, although I'm not certain whether the army has really been involved there or not. So as such, in a situation where Op Sindoor is still very much on, this situation militarily poses a major challenge to the Pakistan army. Having said that, Gaurav, I would also like to just introduce a line of thinking to our viewers and to you and the panel, and that is, we should not forget the Indian subcontinent, from Sri Lanka to Bangladesh to Nepal, what has happened in the recent past. And much of in the case of Bangladesh, it was not even linked to religion. It was religionists who got involved, younger generation, all from the Jamaat. Now, this kind of a movement in Pakistan can very much also play itself out, and that would be the last call. That would be the last stream tongue as far as turbulence in Pakistan is concerned. Because if
Okay.
the streets go into the hands of Gen Z, you can imagine the kind of chaos that can happen there.
Professor Latham, when you look at the situation in Pakistan, will America rethink, if Pakistan is unable to deliver, whether on the rare earth minerals or on anything that Pakistan may have promised Donald Trump, except, of course, recommending him for a Nobel Peace Prize? Will America still continue to back this hybrid military regime in Pakistan, which is a country virtually on fire?
I think it will, as long as the Pakistani government can deliver the goods. And if, because of domestic pressures, grassroots pressures, is being pushed away from the American position, being pushed away from being a good member in good standing in the on Team America, then I think this administration is more than capable of throwing Pakistan under the bus. They really want them, as I said earlier, to get along with India and to get along with Washington, and they want Delhi to get along with Washington and get along with their Pakistani neighbors. Almost none of those things are happening.
But the
the
ball
vision that
clearly is in
Donald Trump has of the
Pakistan's
region-
court. They need to take action against Hafiz Saeed for 26/11. They need to take action against that Maulana of terror, Masood Azhar, for all the terror attacks that are taking place. I'm sure the US now realizes pontificating will not help as far as their establishment to our establishment is concerned. Sir, stay with me. Stay with me. There's breaking news coming in. There's a story that's coming in from Afghanistan, and this is being reported by Tolo News. The Taliban government have repeatedly rejected visa requests by Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif and Lieutenant General Asim Malik, DGISI, and the National Security Advisor of Pakistan. Three times they sought a visa to go to Kabul to take dialogue forward after the bombing of Kabul by Pakistan Air Force and also the skirmishes that have taken place at the border. There were two other Pakistani generals who sought visa along with DGISI and Khwaja Asif, and they were all denied a visa. According to Tolo News, 3 separate visa requests to visit Afghanistan have been made by Pakistan's Defense Minister, DGISI, and the other 2 generals in the past 2 days. According to the Afghan newspaper and network, Kabul keeps on rejecting the requests to visit Afghanistan. So that is how much contempt Afghanistan, the Taliban establishment currently holds Khwaja Asif and DGISI. That's signaling. That's a lot of signaling that's happening, and all of this is happening at a time when Taliban's Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi is in India, and we'll track that story very closely.